5-goal first period outburst to a 6-2 win over Anaheim. Let's get into it. This is Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios on a sunny Saturday afternoon. A day that saw the Vancouver Canucks pump the Anaheim Ducks 6-2. The final score, Canucks give up a goal on the first shot of the hockey game and then roar back with 5. Yeah, 5, count them. History in the making, in fact, at Rogers Arena. We'll certainly get into that as we move along. It's a solo Saturday as well. Couldn't find any hired help with the sunshine, so it's you and it's me here on Rink Wide. Jeff Patterson with you in the Rink Wide Vancouver studio. 6 different goal scorers for the Vancouver Canucks. 6 has been a familiar number for this team that has struggled to generate offense for much of the season. And we've talked about it being such a strange year and, quite frankly, a bad year on home ice, and the record would bear that out. And yet recently, the home fans have seen the Vancouver Canucks score in bunches, and that was the case again in this matinee affair. Rink Wide brought to you in part by Bet365. Need your contributions, because otherwise there's just going to be a lot of me here breaking down this Canuck victory. So we'll be scanning the live YouTube chat. And if you want your comments or your questions to get right to the top of the queue, hit us up with a Super Chat. Super Chat, charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. I mentioned the Ducks opening the scoring, first shot of the hockey game, 1 minute and 21 seconds in. Troy Terry with his 20th of the season, bar down on Thatcher Demko, and it seems to me the other day the Seattle Kraken we're going high on the glove side on Thatcher Demko, so I don't know if the Ducks thought maybe, hey, this is the book on the Canucks netminder. Whatever the case, Terry beat him high. His 20th of the season, and at that point, Anaheim had 4 guys tied for their team lead with 20 goals. They would end the day that way because they only scored one other time. In the meantime, the Ducks did a bunch of standing around. Now, credit to the Vancouver Canucks for bouncing back right away, chipping away, and then exploding, as we said, for an unheard of, unprecedented, in Vancouver Canuck history, 5 goals in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Yes, this organization that's been around for more than half a century had never scored 5 goals that rapidly in any game that they have ever played. So if you were there in the building, if you watched it on the tube, yeah, you witnessed a little Vancouver Canuck history. D. with his first in the National Hockey League. Philip Hronek, another defenseman, getting in on the act. And then it was Brock Besser on a power play, Connor Garland on a power play, and Dakota Joshua to make it 5-1. The Ducks called a timeout at that point, looked down, thought that we would see the hook come out. Greg Cronin figured he would lift Lucas Dostal, who has been busy and played a lot. John Gibson hurt, so Ville Husso is the backup, or was the backup. But Lucas Dostal went the distance, and that surprised me a little bit. Whatever the case, hey, I don't make those calls for the Ducks. I'll trust that Greg Cronin has a better handle on his goaltending. I know that Husso had to fly in. Gibson got shaken up the other night in Calgary, and so for whatever reason, the Ducks rode Lucas Dostal. It was a tough first period for him. He settled down. They settled down, I suppose. The game itself settled down, and really outside of that 4-minute and 30-second burst, there wasn't a whole lot happening in this hockey game. It kind of looked like two teams that recognized, well, Anaheim officially eliminated from the playoff chase. The Vancouver Canucks keep those slim playoff hopes alive, and I'm sure there were a bunch of you out there plugging your ears saying, don't talk to me about playoff hockey. And I get where you're coming from, but they're not eliminated. And so we do this after every Canucks game. We monitor the situation. Canucks with an early game here. Calgary will play later. Minnesota does not play. So the up-to-the-moment standings in the chase for that second wild card, and yes, it is Minnesota now that both Calgary and Vancouver are chasing. Minnesota lost in regulation on Long Island last night. They played Dallas on Sunday afternoon. Minnie's got 89 points with 5 games remaining. Calgary's got 84 points with 7 games to go. And the Vancouver Canucks down to their final 6. They've got 83 points. So they're a point back in Calgary and 6 behind Minnesota. It is still a monumental climb. And the fact that Calgary's in the middle, if you're just chasing Minnesota and you hope that the bottom somehow falls out on the Minnesota Wild, well, guess what? Minnesota's at Calgary on Friday before Minnesota's here in Vancouver next Saturday night. So that complicates matters greatly. If you're the Vancouver Canucks, you just keep your head down. You try to build off this one. And they've got Vegas in here on Sunday night. So it's a busy weekend for the Vancouver Canucks. Quick turnaround. Before then, Vegas is in Calgary tonight, so it'll be back-to-back for both of those teams. Canucks get a little bit more of a break than Vegas, because Vegas plays a late game and then has to travel here. So you're looking at the updated standings on the live stream there. And again, the St. Louis Blues may never lose again. They have moved into the wild card 1 in the West with 91 points after their 11th straight victory. Credit to the Vancouver Canucks. Look, they were dreadful the other night against Seattle. Lerf and I sat in here. We broke it all down. Wasn't a whole lot to talk about in that game. What you hoped for, and you heard Rick talk about it prior to this game, was wanted to see a little life. Wanted to see some resiliency from his hockey club. He wanted to see that it mattered and that guys gave a damn. And, okay, yeah, they gave up the first shot goal. After that, though, there was a response. And, one of the things that I think we're all charting this late stage in the season is the play of the youngsters. And so for the Canucks to get a goal from DPD and to get a goal from Max Sasson, good on those guys. They want to prove that they belong. And DPD certainly looks already like a part of the top 6 defensemen in the organization. And he's come close. He's hit a couple of posts that hadn't scored, gets his first in the National Hockey League. Set up by Linus Karlsson and Derek Forbort. So, maybe not the trio that you would expect to open the scoring for the Vancouver Canucks, but yes, DPD in his 22nd National Hockey League game gets his first, and hopefully first of many. You don't look at him as a guy that's going to generate a ton of offense from the back end, but not afraid to step up into his moments. And that was a big-time shot. I think what I like most about that goal was off the rush, traffic and net drive. There was bodies in front, but DPD, even if Dostal gets a clean look at that, I'm not sure that he's stopping it. Nice shot there. 9 minutes and 40 seconds into the hockey game. It tied it at 1, and we're going to take a look at it on the live stream as well. Down to one knee, but leaned into it and snapped it home, and that got the ball rolling for the Vancouver Canucks. Boy, did it ever. Okay, so here's basically the math. At 9:40 of the first period, Elias Pettersson gets the Canucks on the board, 1-1. A minute and 6 seconds after that, Phil Hronek, with a long shot that Trevor Zegras out high, gets his stick on it. Dostal looking to his right, kind of slides to his right, leaves the left half of the net open, and a bit of a fortunate break, but the Canucks will take it. And so 2 goals a minute and 6 seconds apart. Now all of a sudden they've flipped the script here, and they're out in front 2-1. But wait, Ducks running into some penalty problems. 46 seconds after the Hronek goal, it's Brock Besser on the power play, his 25th, the high slot tip. We've seen him score that goal a couple of times, similar to the goal that he scored against the Winnipeg Jets a couple of weeks back in Rogers Arena. So Besser with his team-leading 25th of the year at 11:32. Now it's 3-1. Well, they weren't done, not by a long shot. At a minute and 53 seconds after that, another Canuck power play, and this time it's Connor Garland in the blue paint. And that's where he scored the bulk of his goals, going down to, the short stick, mini stick, and puck in the paint. And he finds it, able to tip it home. That made it 4-1 for the Vancouver Canucks. Now they sort of are laughing. They've got a comfortable lead. But Dakota Joshua wanted into the fun. And a shot from the slot. And he makes no mistake. And we've documented it's been a tough year offensively for Dakota Joshua, a guy that certainly would have scored 20 had he remained healthy and played all the games last year, but got to 18 as it was, got the new contract. And for Dakota Joshua, who hasn't scored an awful lot here, down the stretch, scored against the Rangers, opened the scoring, in fact, at MSG. That is his 6th goal of the season, and that came 45 seconds after the Garland goal. So, yeah, a lot of goals, a lot of numbers. Add it all up, and it was 5-1 for the Vancouver Canucks. And it remained that way through the end of the first period. Not a lot of saves. Shots were 14-13 for the Canucks, and the score was 5-1 after 1. That is the most goals, by the way, if people had wondered. Most goals that the Canucks have scored in a period this season. They scored 4 in the second period against Pittsburgh way back when in October, but they go one better in this one and get 5 in the first. So a 5-1 lead after 20 minutes. The Ducks had the only goal in the second period. Trevor Zegras friendly bounce off the end boards, and Thatcher Demko was all twisted around. Zegras had no problem putting home his 11th of the year, and then Max Sasson rounds out the scoring 5.5 minutes into the third, strips the puck of Oliver Shillington, and away he goes. We know that Sasson's got speed, and put it on full display for all to see. You got to feel good for a guy like Max Sasson, who got the call. Nils Åman got hurt in practice on Friday afternoon, so Sasson probably learned on Friday night that he was getting the call and gets plugged right in and is able to contribute, even if it is gravy, in a 6-2 win. Look, this is a guy who scored his first NHL goal in a 5-1 loss at home against Boston. Good for him, but you could tell that night Canucks getting bombed just before Christmas. And Sasson didn't want to celebrate individual success, so he played it pretty cool. He has scored since. He scored in Seattle. That was his second goal, and this one is his third NHL goal. But a much better circumstance for him, and to get the crowd reaction and the response and everything else, got to feel good for Max Sasson, which leads us into our 3 stars of this hockey game. We'll get to the Rink Wide 3 stars in a sec. 3 stars selected in the building by Sportsnet: Quinn Hughes, Max Sasson, and Elias Pettersson. We've had Elias Pettersson as a star on a handful of occasions, not nearly as many as he and the Canucks and their fans would have liked all season long, but this time it's Elias Pettersson. But the 3 stars here on Rink Wide, we're going Brock Boeser. No love for Brock on the telecast there, and yet surges back into the team lead in goals with 25, has an assist, so a multi-point effort, 4 shots on goal, and his goal that made it 3-1 stands up as the game winner. So fairly solid afternoon for Brock Boeser, and there's only 4 home games remaining. 4 more chances for the Vancouver Canucks fans to see and salute Brock Boeser, perhaps. I mean, we don't know where this is going to go, obviously, in the offseason, but there's certainly every possibility that he's playing in a different uniform next year. So you hope that he can go out on a personal high and that fans get an opportunity to celebrate with him. Again tomorrow against Vegas, and then 3 home games to wrap things up after a quick 2-game road trip. But Brock Boeser, the first star here on Rink Wide. We're going with Elias Pettersson. Guy scores his first NHL goal. It started the comeback. And, no Tyler Myers in this game. And so both Elias Pettersson and Victor Mancini get an opportunity to play some significant minutes. I know the telecast picked Quinn Hughes as the first star, and yes, Quinn had 2 points. What I loved most was Quinn Hughes played 22 minutes and 36 seconds. Like, we've seen him in that total, in that range, through 40 minutes of hockey some nights here. So good on the coaching staff for backing off on Quinn Hughes and allowing others to step up and step in and play. And for DPD, he plays 15 minutes and 7 seconds. Scored on his only shot, had a couple of hits, took a penalty, but Canucks were able to kill that off. And I do want to talk about the penalty kill momentarily, but let's get to Max Sasson, the goal, and 3 shots on goal, speed on display, and looking at his night, just a shade under 12 minutes, 11 minutes and 58 seconds, 5-5 in the face-off circle, and thrust back into National Hockey League action. And this guy does not look out of place when he gets the opportunities. Now, I saw people on social when the Canucks called him up, jokingly saying, hey, afternoon game at Rogers Arena, Abbotsford's playing a night game tonight at home to Laval. Let the guy play a doubleheader. Don't think that's going to happen, because I think Sasson's going to stay up and play again for the Vancouver Canucks against Vegas. I walked into the building an hour before face-off. Nils Åman in a suit still had the arm and shoulder in a sling. There were reports yesterday by Patrick Johnson that he left UBC in a sling after colliding with the end boards at practice, had to be helped off the ice. Not a great sign with 6 games remaining. Probably have seen the last of Nils Åman for this season, which is unfortunate for him. But other guys step in, and it's been that next man up mentality. And the Vancouver Canucks spread the scoring around. Boy, did they ever. 6 different goal scorers, just the second time this season that they've had it. They've scored 6 on 5 occasions, but there have been multiple goal scorers in most of those games. This time, I think it was the home game against Chicago when they lit up the Blackhawks for 6, had 6 different goal scorers as well. But the 3 stars here on Rink Wide, Brock Boeser, DPD, and Max Sasson. And the 3 stars are brought to you by Greta Bar YVR, another Canucks Army viewing party coming up on Thursday when Vancouver's at Colorado. I know the season's winding down here, but kind come gather with us, the Canucks Army gang, Harrison Price, Rink Wide. We'll all be there and make an appearance at the very least. And hopefully I can gather with other like-minded Canuck fans. And, it would have been great to build up towards the playoffs. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. But still, as we say on most of these episodes, if you haven't been to Greta, this is a great chance. Come on down, have some fun, food and drinks and prizes, all the big screens, not a bad seat in the house, the arcade games to keep you busy during the intermissions. You can order off the terrific new street food menu. They've got weekly drink specials as well. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar, let the games begin. And if you're wondering about details for the watch party, all presented by Fountain Tire. It's in support of Kids Sport Vancouver. Tickets are $10. That gets you in. Or there's a VIP option, $40. Includes a burger, a beer, and an arcade game card. You got to be 19 plus to attend. Secure your spot now and join the Canucks Army crew for a fun night. Tickets go to nationgear.ca. By my count, and I should double check the final box score, but I don't think anything's changed there. 13 different Canucks skaters get in on the scoring. So that was one of the keys to this hockey game for the Vancouver Canucks, who got blanked by Seattle the other night. Not only did they respond, but a bunch of guys stepped up. It was hard to pick 3 stars tonight because there wasn't one guy that, absolutely lit the world on fire. It was just a strong night across the board. Veteran players, but also some of these young guys stepping in and stepping up. 13 different skaters. So 13 of the 18 Canucks skaters figured in the scoring. For Quinn Hughes, just a side note, we mentioned the fact that, 22 minutes and 36 seconds, he can do that in his sleep. Not a big deal. Does pick up a couple of assists on the 2 power play goals, primary assists on the Besser goal and the Connor Garland goal. And Quinn Hughes is up to 405 career points. And why is that number significant? Because with 6 games to go, he's now within 4 of Alex Edler's franchise record for points by a defenseman at 409 points. Not quite Ovi and the Great One, but it is certainly something to watch here as the season winds to a close. And 4 points in 6 games, you got to think that Quinn Hughes will get there, certainly should get there. If he plays them all, I guess it's a question, do they, at one point it was suggested they leave him behind on this quick 2-game road trip to Dallas and Colorado. But he's a gamer, he's the captain, he wants to lead by example at the late stage of the season. So I don't imagine that Quinn would condone the idea of staying behind while his teammates go on a business trip, but certainly something we'll be charting here as we move forward on Rink Wide Vancouver with these 6 games to go. And the next one, right back at it, quick turnaround with Vegas in town on Sunday night. That's a 7 o'clock start, by the way, after the early 1 o'clock puck drop on this Saturday. Canucks snap a 3-game losing skid. They lost in regulation back-to-back, Seattle and Winnipeg, and before that, obviously that crazy game in Columbus. So 0-2-1 of their last 3, but they put that to rest. 35th victory of the season. The Canucks now 35, 28, and 13 on the year, so they're up to 83 points. And the home record, again, not good enough, and one of the reasons that there isn't likely to be playoff hockey here in Vancouver for a second straight year. The home record is 16, 14, and 7. But while we're talking about the home record, I want to get to the stat that stands out because it ties into what the paying customers have been treated to of late. And really, when you think of the Vancouver Canucks and all of the struggles to score for so much of the season, go figure. Like, somebody help me out here and explain why the Vancouver Canucks have all of a sudden been able to find these nights where goals just go in by the bushel full. The stat that stands out in this one, on this episode of Rink Wide, a presentation of Resurrection Spirits, Vancouver scored 6 goals for the 3rd time in their last 5 home games. Yeah, did it against Chicago. Did it against Connor Hellebuck and the Winnipeg Jets. Come off the road trip, and here they do this against Anaheim this afternoon. Now, the strange part, but really maybe it's kind of fitting for the type of season that it's been, in between those 6-goal outbursts, 6 against Chicago, 1 against Utah, 6 against Winnipeg, none against Seattle, and 6 here against Anaheim. So truly has been feast or famine for the last bunch of home games, but too many nights this year where the fans haven't been entertained, haven't got their money's worth. This one didn't have a ton of intensity, let's be honest. And quite frankly, beyond Anaheim not pulling Lucas Dostal at any point. Like, the Ducks just did not look the least bit distressed as the Canucks were racking up goals there in the first period. Like, there was no frustration, there was no pushback, there was no physical challenge from the Ducks. And Jacob Trouba didn't play, by the way. I don't know if he was a healthy scratch or why he didn't play. Radko Gudas in the lineup, but didn't really notice him an awful lot other than fishing a couple of pucks out of the net. So, yeah, I mean, it had all the intensity of a Ducks team that already been eliminated and a Canucks team that certainly is on life support. But, yeah, that's a stat that stands out for the third time in the last 5 home games. The Vancouver Canucks put 6 past opponent goaltenders. Stat that stands out, brought to you by Resurrection Spirits. And we're always talking about this push to support local and buy Canadian these days. And if you want to support a local company making a name in the spirit space, then do yourself a favor and check out Resurrection Spirits, an East Vancouver company crafting small batches of premium spirits using BC ingredients. Check out their website for a look at the full product line: gin, vodka, rye, and a whole lot more. And who doesn't love a deal? Resurrection Spirits is partnered with our friends at Sekeres and Price, and they've created an S&P gin. It's a limited run, so make sure you use the code S&P, and you can get $5 off a bottle. We've got a few here in studio. Check out resurrectionspirits.ca. You can find out about the S&P gin there, or you can find out about anything else in their impressive product line. I know a few people in the chat are saying bring Jacob on. We will. We'll get to technical producer Jacob Lazar here because he made an interesting observation. Thatcher Demko, the Canucks are back in their black skate jerseys. And Jacob, you want to jump in here? Thatcher Demko, for years, Ian Clark didn't like the goaltenders to rock black pads with the black skate jersey. But Thatcher Demko showing us a new look here. And what was your theory about late in the season with goaltending equipment?
Well, late in the year is when you see all the manufacturers, CCM, True, Bauer, all of them. When they launch their new line of equipment, they want the NHL guys to wear the new stuff for the playoffs. It's the best marketing you can have so that when it hits the public in August and you get all the kids and beer league guys buying new gear, they can say, oh, I saw Sergei Bobrovsky winning the Stanley Cup in these pads. Demko got his new set of CCMs, and I noticed, hey, he went back to the white look with the black skate jersey. I like the black pads. I think it looked good, but hey, maybe goalies are superstitious. Maybe Demko wanted to go back to something that he was a little more comfortable with last year.
I don't know if this is a one-off. I'm not sure what their plans are for the black skate, if we'll see it again at Vegas tomorrow night.
Yes, tomorrow's
the black one as well.
And that's the last scheduled game for the black skate of the year.
See, there you go. Jacob has all the details there. All right, so we'll see them in black. I would assume we're going to see Kevin Lankinen in goal on Sunday night. Rick Tocchet was not asked about his goaltending plans for the weekend, other than who was starting today when Tocchet met the media before the hockey game, and we'll see if anything comes from the coach's post-game remarks at the podium, and we'll try and bring you a little bit of post-game reaction as well. It's one of those days where we're so used to Rink Wide doing games late at night, usually the last game of the night on the National Hockey League schedule. And of course, when the Canucks play at 1 o'clock Pacific, there were a bunch of early games, but there are still a whole bunch of games still to come. We mentioned Vegas at Calgary. That's one of the late games tonight. Colorado is going to try to snap St. Louis's 11-game win streak. Blues beat the Avs in Denver last week, and they've beaten everybody of late. So we'll be keeping our eye on that one. Boston trying to snap a 10-game losing streak. And the Los Angeles Kings have defeated the Edmonton Oilers, not just defeated them, but shut them out. This is interesting to me. And I guess I've been so focused on what's happening around the wild card and the playoff bar in the West that kind of quietly the Los Angeles Kings have snuck up on the Vegas Golden Knights to the point that at this moment, as we do this live on Saturday afternoon, the LA Kings are a point back of Vegas. Golden Knights have a game in hand, so they'll play later tonight in Calgary. But if Vegas wants to win the Pacific Division, if Vegas wants to fend off this hard-charging Los Angeles Kings team that's won 8 of its last 10 games, including 4 in a row, then the Golden Knights are going to mean business tonight in Calgary, but Flames are desperate too. They really can't afford to lose. So now the stakes get pretty high. in the late game of hockey night. But the stakes are going to be high for Vegas on Sunday coming into Vancouver as well. So we'll see. The Canucks saw a Ducks team that didn't look all that engaged and interested. That will not be the story when Vegas rolls in here. And, of course, Vegas has to make 2 trips to Vancouver. They're here on Sunday, and then they're in for game 82, the final game of the regular season on April 16th. So still a fair bit of Vegas on the schedule for the Vancouver Canucks. Special teams battle. I said I wanted to talk about the penalty kill in this hockey game, and I do, because the Canucks score 2 quick power play goals. Besser and Garland midway through the first period made it 3-1 and then 4-1. But Anaheim scores 2 minutes and 49 seconds into the second period. 5-2, a lot of time left. And we all know, it wasn't that long ago, the Columbus game, that the Canucks had a 3-0 lead in the first period and a 5-3 lead in the third. And I don't think I was alone with this notion crossing my mind that, hey, if the Ducks score on a power play here in the second, make it a 2-goal game with more than half the hockey game remaining. The Canucks aren't out of the woods by a long shot. And I think we all saw with our own eyes why the Anaheim Ducks have the worst power play in the National Hockey League. Their first power play of the night, Pia Suter got called for slashing. I would say 1 minute and 45 seconds of that power play was spent behind the Ducks' net. Credit to the Canucks penalty kill, and we know that the Canucks penalty killers have done a terrific job in the second half of the season. They didn't give an inch and just kept forcing the Ducks back and turning pucks over on the end boards and hounding them with the forecheck. It was impressive stuff by the Canucks, but for a Ducks team that power play goal they get back in the hockey game, did nothing with the first one and probably less with the second one when DPD was called for interference. Whatever the case, Canucks go 2 for 2 on the power play, Ducks go 0 for 2, and so special teams certainly played a role in the outcome of this hockey game. Ducks ended up out shooting the Canucks 34-26, and if you look under the hood at some of the underlying numbers, scoring chances favored the Ducks at 23-17. The high dangers were 9-5 in Anaheim's favor. And Natural Stat Trick says at 5-on-5, the Ducks controlled 60% of all the shot attempts. Now, score effects perhaps. But really, outside of that 4.5-minute burst by the Canucks, and it happened, and it changed the dynamic of the hockey game. Don't get me wrong. But this was not a well-played game either way. And again, there really weren't particularly high stakes, even though the Canucks not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, but 2 teams for some lengthy stretches on this early start that kind of looked like they were going through the motions. But end of the day, the Canucks firepower comes through and they win it by a score of 6-2 with 6 games remaining in this 2024-25 National Hockey League schedule. Thatcher Demko snaps a 2-game personal losing streak, ends up making 32 saves. Didn't love that first goal, the Troy Terry goal that beat him up high. I will say that after that, he sort of settled in because the Ducks had a couple of opportunities in that first period, and Thatcher Demko was up to the challenge there. The only goal that he gives up was the first shot of the hockey game, and the Ducks had 13 shots in the first period. I just didn't think that Demko looked all that comfortable. And he was aided by the posts. I'd have to go back and add up the number of posts that the Ducks hit in this hockey game. But, Demko gets run support. First time this season for him that the Canucks scored 6 goals. But I didn't think that he was totally dialed. And there were a couple of, I should have made note of, shot off the post that it looked like it eluded his glove. It hit the post, and then it kind of bounced back into his gear, and he was able to cover up. But looked like a half-beat slow, perhaps, getting the glove out there to make the initial stop. There were a couple others where loose change in the blue paint, the Canucks were able to scoop it away. So he was helped a little bit, but end of the day, he picks up a win. And for Thatcher Demko individually now, 9 wins, 8 outright losses, and 3 OTLs. So, 22 games played. Hasn't got through all of them, but in terms of decisions, he's now 9-8-3 on the year. And part of the Canucks story here of late has been who's in the lineup and, of course, who's out of the lineup. And Noah Elias Pettersson, that's 6 straight games now for him. Philip Hedl has missed 9 in a row. And It just doesn't sound like we're going to see Filip Chytil again this season, and understandably so. And if that is in fact the case, then he's quite likely to miss the final 15 games of the season. Nils Höglander didn't play, but we're led to believe that he will probably get into the lineup tomorrow, which, on a night where 13 different guys figure in the scoring, now Rick Tocchet's going to have a bit of a decision. Höglander's going to play. If he's ready to go and he's got clearance, Höglander's getting back in there. But for whom? Pretty quiet day, I thought, for Jonathan Lekkerimäki, and that's unfortunate on a day when everybody's getting theirs. Lekkerimäki plays 12 and a half minutes, doesn't have a shot on goal. Now, he did get the second assist on the Besser goal in the power play, so he was one of the 13 skaters that figured in the scoring, but not even a shot attempt. And he's got to find his way. He's got to find a way to be a little bit more selfish when he's got the puck. I want to see him shoot. I think the Canucks want to see him shoot. Is the door open for Jonathan Lekkerimäki to come out of the lineup to make room for Nils Höglander? It probably is. The other guy, I guess Max Sassen's up on an emergency basis, but he's a center, and the Canucks could probably make a case here that they don't have enough centermen and need Sassen to play that position. So we'll see what happens, but we're likely to see a change in the lineup. I talked about Nils Åman earlier, and doesn't sound great for Tyler Myers, which is unfortunate because Myers has quietly had a really nice season for the Vancouver Canucks. And really, that's 2 years in a row, but got hurt the other night, third period against Seattle, left with about 12 minutes to play, didn't practice on Friday, didn't play today. Rick Tocchet said he was doubtful for Sunday as well. And then after Sunday, there's only 5 remaining. And so not knowing the extent of the injury, the nature of the injury, it's a guess right now, about who or how many of the final 5 games Tyler Myers is going to get into. The flip side there is that the door then is open for DPD and Victor Mancini to stay in the lineup together on the same night, something that really hasn't happened. They'd been alternating the two young guys. So DPD scores. Mancini had his moments, got to play with Quinn Hughes for much of this hockey game, so a great opportunity for Victor Mancini, but I think there's still obviously a lot of room to grow in his game, and another opportunity and a stiffer test, obviously, against a Vegas team on Sunday night. It was good to see Brock score, not only get into the team lead with 25. He'd gone a couple without scoring. He had scored in Columbus, but that was his only goal in the last 5. Connor Garland had gone 4 without scoring. His last goal coming in the dying seconds of the third period in New Jersey to force that game to overtime. So he'd gone 4 without, had just 1 in his last 8. And hadn't been scoring a bunch. Only 2 goals in his last 16 hockey games prior to this one, so that had to feel good for Connor Garland. Jake DeBrusk, relatively quiet afternoon, got shifted off the top line. Garland got the opportunity to play with Suter and Besser, and that line certainly had some moments and some opportunities. But I tweeted this out prior to the hockey game, and Jacob, if you can bring this one up, it was basically a checklist of, all right, season's getting away from the Vancouver Canucks. What is there to watch for as they head into these final 7 games? We already talked about Quinn Hughes. Is he going to get the 6 points he needs? Now it's down to 4. So that's certainly something worth monitoring. Who's going to win the team goal-scoring derby? Besser moves in front of DeBrusk by 1. Brock's up to 25 after scoring 40 last year. We've seen Brock Besser get on absolute heaters. Scored 6 goals in 4 games not that long ago. 30's a long shot, but it's not out of the question, especially if the power play gets going. But I'll be curious. And look, I should have prefaced this right off the top. I get it. I cover this team for a living. I've done Rink Wide every night here, all season long. The season, for the most part, has been a disaster. These are not being held up as, look at these incredible races, or look at these incredible totals. That is not it. Not at all. And whether Brock Besser wins the team scoring derby with 25 or 26, it's an underwhelming total for him and for the hockey club. But I'm just trying to find things to keep my attention focused. And so, yes, there is an individual chase of who's going to lead this team in goals when the final game comes here in a couple of weeks' time. So Besser up 25, DeBrusk at 24, Pia Suter stays on 22. Will Connor Garland get the 2 goals he needs to reach 20 for the second straight year? Well, Got one of them this afternoon, so now he's on 19. You got to think that there's at least one more goal in the stick of Connor Garland. Kiefer Sherwood, can he get 3 so that he gets to 20? And who would have thought that Kiefer Sherwood at the outset of the season was going to be a 20-goal scorer for the Vancouver Canucks? Kiefer Sherwood did not score, and in fact, relatively quiet night for Kiefer Sherwood. And again, not a ton of intensity, but just 4 hits. So that's the other part of the Kiefer Sherwood equation that we're asking. How close can he get to 500 hits? Well, he's up to 435 with 6 games remaining. And we've seen him get to double digits on a number of occasions. I don't think he can get to 500. That seems like a bridge too far, but certainly 450 plus, and we'll see where he tops out. And then this goes back to the statement I just made. Again, I recognize that 50 points for a forward is no kind of achievement, but it is something to watch with this Vancouver Hockey Club. Will a forward get to 50 points on the season? Well, Brock Boeser takes a step in that direction. He has 2 points. We mentioned he was the first star of this hockey game. And so Brock Boeser, after this game, and this win against the Anaheim Ducks, Brock Boeser is up to 46 points on the season. Is that updated now for Brock Boeser? No. Brock Boeser's up to 48 points. So, yeah, again, you got to think he'll get 250, but is he going to get a whole lot beyond 50? Yeah, who knows? So we'll see how it all plays out. This segment of Rink Wide Vancouver is a presentation of the Pacific Toyota dealers who want to tell you all about the Toyota BZ4X. It's 100% electric, backed by the peace of mind of knowing that it's a Toyota and the spark of joy you get when you pass a gas station knowing that you don't have to stop when everybody else is pulling off to get to the pumps. The added perk of being able to access HOV lanes when driving an EV, even when you're alone in the vehicle. It's got all kinds of storage space. It can hold a bunch of kids, all their hockey gear, their baseball equipment, golf clubs, you name it, as we start to look at some of these outdoor summer activities. It's got great cargo capacity, and it can handle any terrain, so it can take you from the city to the slopes or wherever your life takes you. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives, and right now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealers. 6-2, the Vancouver Canucks defeat the Anaheim Ducks. Canucks take 3 of 4 from the Ducks this year. So, they struggled against Nashville and Seattle, but managed to find their way in 3 of the 4 games against the Anaheim Ducks this season. All right, just looking in the chat here, Robert says, let's hope Demmer and EP40 have good off seasons and come back healthy when you don't participate in the preseason, as this year proves you're behind the 8 ball. Yeah, and I would throw in Dakota Joshua into that mix as well. Dakota Joshua earned a hefty contract based on 18 goals in 63 games last year, but a physical force, a solid playoff performance as well, and then obviously was throwing one of life's great curveballs, diagnosed with testicular cancer. So it was nice to see him score, but they do need more from him next year, and so he seems like he is in a much better place now with his game, with his health, so hopefully he can get after it in the offseason and come back stronger than ever. EP40, yeah, look, I mean, that's going to be the topic all summer long. Curious to hear from him at his exit meetings and when he meets with the media on that final day, locker clear out. He sort of bared his soul a little bit, what was that, nearly a month ago now, and once he did, there was an uptick in his performance. But now he's out. It's missed 6 games, and we just don't know if we're going to see him again on the ice this season. But I'll be curious if he steps back and is at all revealing about his plans for the offseason, his approach, what has to be different, because it was obvious that he struggled down the stretch last year. And then we heard about the tendonitis, and did that affect his offseason? Probably. Were there other things that he could have done, should have done? What did he learn from last offseason so that he can get back to being the star-level player that we know about? And for Thatcher Demko, last year was all about rehabbing that knee. I think the knee has held up. There have been a few other hiccups along the way with the back spasms, and we believe it was a groin injury that kept him out after the Four Nations break. But the fact that he gets through these games, at some lower level, that in itself is a victory. And things for Thatcher Demko to build on How many more starts will they get with 6 games to go? Do they just alternate from here on out? Quite possibly. We'll see. But, Robert, yeah, I mean, I think most Canuck fans are hoping that that's the case. Of course, EP40 and the trade protection that kicks in on July the 1st, that's the other shoe that may still have to drop in terms of that conversation. But, whatever. Wherever Elias Pettersson is playing next season, whether it's for the Canucks or if he gets dealt, that team is certainly going to expect that he has a big offseason as well. So a lot of it's on the player here to put in the work in the offseason to make sure that this was the outlier, that this was going to stand as the anomaly, for the balance of the hefty contract that he signed a year ago in March. Robert also says, I've watched this team since their entrance to the league. They're never boring, not always good, though. Yeah, I mean, that was the title of Ed Willis's book, Never Boring, Vancouver Canucks. There's always a story to tell, and this season itself could be a couple of chapters in a book, without a doubt. So the overriding sentiment is there's been a disappointment, especially where they were last year at this time and what they were building to with the 50 wins and the 109 points and getting to the second round. And just think about every other night for 6 weeks with 2 rounds of playoffs and the stakes getting higher in this city and the full buy-in. It was so much fun. And that's the shame here, is that's the best part of the year. And the Canucks are not going to be one of the 16 teams involved in the postseason when the playoffs begin in a couple of weeks' time. All right, let's turn our attention elsewhere as we look at our Bet365 line of the night. And we mentioned that Vegas and Calgary in the late game Hockey Night in Canada, so you can check this one out for yourself. If the Flames are going to keep the heat on the Minnesota Wild, then they've got to find a way to beat Vegas. And there is some value there. And look, this Calgary team has been one of the great stories in the National Hockey League. To still be in it into the final 2 weeks of the regular season, hats off to Ryan Huska and the players there, the job that they have all done. And, a little bit of value on the money line at plus 130 if you think that they can pull off the upset here. The Golden Knights coming off back-to-back losses, got shut out by Winnipeg the other night, so I can't imagine that Vegas is going to be in a particularly good mood, but it'll be interesting to see what they do with their goaltending. I would imagine Adin Hill gets the call tonight, but he probably isn't going to go back-to-back, and so we'll see if Adin Hill goes in Calgary tonight or if they save him, arrested Adin Hill, to face the Canucks on Sunday. But, we're going to take the Flames on the money line against Vegas at home at the Saddle Dome. Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime wins a barn burner, every face-off, hat-trick, power play, shot-on-goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. All right, just want to take a moment here to acknowledge what's going on out in the Fraser Valley. And I'm sure you know by now that the Abbotsford Canucks are the hottest team in the American Hockey League on an 11-game win streak. Well, they're at home. If you haven't had your fix of Canuck hockey yet today, they're at home tonight at 7 o'clock and then Sunday afternoon at 4, taking on the Laval Rocket. And why do I mention Laval? Well, it's the opponent, but also Laval is the best team in the American Hockey League by points this year. So you've got the hottest team in the AHL taking on the best team in the American Hockey League. A really intriguing matchup out in the Fraser Valley twice this weekend. If the Canucks are going to extend this win streak, they're going to have to earn it because Laval means business. The Montreal Canadiens farm team. The Baby Canucks have 7 games to go. This weekend at home against Laval, next weekend at home against Calgary, and then out on the road for 3 in California to wrap things up. So that's what's going on. And I would imagine that the barn will be rocking out in Abbotsford, the Abbotsford Center, and hopefully people are flocking to get a look at this Abbotsford team that, again, the big league Canucks keep pulling out players. Max Sasson, we talked about him. The job that Manny Malhotra and the players are doing, the next man up mentality there. Let's hope that they can keep it going. 7 o'clock tonight at the Abbotsford Center. It's the Abbotsford Canucks and the Laval Rocket. Vegas in on Sunday. Vegas still leads the Pacific, but we talked about the fact that they've lost 2 in a row, and Los Angeles is coming on strong here. Jack Eichel having an incredible season. Looking forward to seeing Jack Eichel. I'm not sure the Canucks are. He's a handful. 92 points for the Golden Knights leading scorer. Has really had the kind of season that I think when he got picked second overall behind Connor McDavid. This is what hockey envisioned for Jack Eichel. Been able to push the triple digits. So we'll see if he can get to 100 points. Pavel Dorofeyev, great story. 32 goals. He leads the Golden Knights in goal scoring. He's got 32. Thomas Hertl has 31. They got the best power play in the National Hockey League. So where Anaheim had the worst power play, it's going to be the contrast for the Canucks and their penalty kill. If they take penalties, they're going to be put to the test by this Vegas team that is fourth in the overall standings. So, there will be a year. I know there was the 1 year they missed the playoffs, but there will come a time when the Vegas Golden Knights no longer have any draft picks and prospects and all their players age out. They will crash down to earth, but it's not this year, and it probably won't be next year either. They're a handful, and they're a good team, and the Canucks are going to have to. They're going to have to be prepared. I think for me, it's how do you respond after Anaheim didn't really look all that into it? A sleepy afternoon game. This game's likely to mean a fair bit to the Vegas Golden Knights, and I think the Canucks are going to have to be ready to sort of match that kind of playoff intensity from a team that has designs on going all the way and winning the Stanley Cup. And so, we'll see what happens on Sunday. We'll be back and we'll do another episode of Rink Wide on Sunday. Farhan's going to be in studio, so a lot of me this afternoon with a little help from our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, but we're going to have Farhan in helping me break down the Canucks and the Golden Knights. Again, 6 different goal scorers. It was fun to see a little slice of Vancouver Canuck history. DPD, Phil Hronik, Brock Besser, Connor Garland, and Dakota Joshua in a span of 4 minutes and 30 seconds. It was dizzying, to say the least, trying to jot down the goals, and it seemed every time I looked down at my notepad, the Canucks were scoring again. So I'll be honest that missed a couple of those goals. I had to watch them on the replay on the Jumbotron, but that's what happens when you score that often as the Vancouver Canucks did. So they're still alive with 83 points, and by the time they play Vegas, Minnesota will have skated at home to Dallas on Sunday afternoon. So Calgary in action later on Saturday, Minnesota playing a daytime game at home to the Dallas Stars, and then it's the Canucks and the Golden Knights, the nightcap on Sunday. And that's when we'll be back with our next episode of Rink Wide Vancouver. So it turned out to be a fun game. All things considered, certainly for the home team, fun when you score 6, and they're starting to do that with a little bit of regularity. We'll see if they used up their quota of goals for the weekend or if they've got more in store for Vegas on Sunday. All right, that is going to do it. Get out and enjoy the sunshine and what's left of the Saturday, or if you're listening to this on Sunday, you missed out on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. But busy weekend for the Vancouver Canucks, and that means a busy weekend for us here at Rink Wide Vancouver. For our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, my name's Jeff Patterson. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with us here on Rink Wide Vancouver.